In the early 1940s, the skies over Britain and Malta brought not just the roar of enemy aircraft, but the silent flutter of death. From above came something deceptively small, almost toy-like, yet terrifying. This is the story of the butterfly bomb, one of Nazi Germany's most insidious weapons of World War II. Officially called the Sprengbomb Dichtwand 2kg, or the SD-2, these were small anti-personnel submunitions developed by the Luftwaffe. But the name the soldiers and civilians came to know them by was more chilling: butterfly bombs. And that nickname wasn't just poetic. When released from a larger bomb casing or dropped individually from aircraft, these 2 kilogram devices would unfold 2 metal wings, like a butterfly's, causing them to spin as they fell. The spinning action, armed with the internal fuse, which would then detonate in several ways. Some exploded on impact, others had delayed fuses, waiting silently for minutes or even hours. But the most feared version was the one that lay dormant on the ground, just waiting to be disturbed. The SD-2 first appeared in combat during the Luftwaffe raids on Grimsby and Hull in June 1943, though they had been used earlier in North Africa and against the Soviets. In Britain they caused chaos, not just because of their explosive power, but because they looked like harmless debris. British children in particular were at grave risk. The bombs were bright yellow, about the size of a lunchbox. Their wings made them look like toys, and when they scattered across residential streets and farmland, they were nearly impossible to spot before it was too late. But it wasn't only Britain that suffered. On the tiny island of Malta, under relentless siege from Axis powers, the butterfly bombs brought horror from above. German and Italian bombers dropped them to disrupt repair efforts on airfields, destroy supply lines and terrorise the civilians. Malta, a strategic Allied base, endured over 3,000 air raids between 1940 and 1942, and many of them were dropping submunitions in huge numbers. One of the cruelest tactics was to drop butterfly bombs just before or after air raids. When air raid sirens sounded and bombs fell, people rushed to shelters, but once the all-clear siren rang, they came out, only to be met by tiny unexploded traps hidden in rubble or grass. The Royal Engineers, along with the local bomb disposal units, were forced to learn fast. Handling these devices was one of the most dangerous jobs of the war, and it came with a steep learning curve. Their mechanism was crude, but also deadly effective. Their wings spun the arming pins. Inside a detonator and spring-loaded striker sat in deadly tension. If the bomb moved just slightly, it completed the circuit and exploded. These were not precision weapons, they were terror weapons. In British towns like Grimsby, Ipswich and Hull, stories spread of children killed or maimed after mistaking a butterfly bomb for a toy. Fields were declared off limits, streets were cordoned off. Even weeks after air raids, the bombs continued to claim lives. Civilians were taught to recognise them, leaflets were distributed, and posters went up, saying "Do not touch, report immediately," but it didn't always work. In 1943, a farmer ploughing a field near to Hull triggered an undetonated SD-2 and was killed instantly. A local girl in Ipswich picked up one, thinking it was part of a model plane, and she lost a hand. The devices were banned by international convention after the war, but at the time there was no rules against scattering explosives designed to remain dormant. The butterfly bomb left a legacy far beyond its size. It taught Allied forces the dangers of cluster munitions, a lesson that would echo throughout wars in Korea, Vietnam and beyond. It also brought a new level of psychological warfare to civilian populations: uncertainty, fear, the unknown ticking just beneath your feet. They were small, they were almost silent, and they were deadly. The butterfly bomb was not meant to destroy cities, it was meant to destroy people. And in places like Malta, Hull, Grimsby or Ipswich, it did exactly that. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please click subscribe and share, it really does help. And thanks again for watching.